and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Dial-Makhubalo and I welcome you to my home. This is my home, this is your home. So welcome home. Today we have Aunty T, who is a content creator, a lover of beautiful things. Her home is so beautiful.
Thank you.
And Aunty T invited me to her home for us to have a sit down, and we answered some questions that were posted on her community post. And so we're doing a part 2 on my channel, which is continuing with those questions. So please welcome Aunty T, and please go and comment and like and subscribe to her channel. It is called Aunty
Tandizamo.
I will have it at the bottom.
Yeah, thank
so
you
we
guys.
can go through it, Aunty T.
So thanks for inviting me. You guys didn't invite me. I invited myself. So thanks for inviting me. You guys didn't invite me. I invited myself. But thanks for having me. We have a part 1 in my channel, so this is part 2. So please go and make sure that you first check part 1 so that you can just
understand the context also.
The context.
Yes.
So now the besties, welcome back. We are in part 2 now because there are people coming from my channel now who are gonna be okay. Okay, good. Okay, good day. Good day, coach and besties. My question is, any advice for a 30-year-old to ensure a good life as you age? Could be about health, wealth, relationship, God, spirituality. Don't be shy to share. I want to know it all. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. Okay. What do you want to share, Aunty T, as a person who's grown and has life experience?
We are here to listen to the coach now. It says to coach.
Okay, so I think to have a good life, and maybe I can even reflect on, my journey, because now I'm in my early 30s, is I've come to learn that the things that we overemphasize in our 20s don't matter much as you grow older. And that probably the most important thing to have as you grow is peace.
That is so true.
And peace is cultivated in different ways. So I love that the person even said God, spirituality, whatever, is that you have to be attached to an everlasting source, which is God. Because as you grow older, the challenges that you experience, sometimes even money can't solve them.
Sure.
Zifuna, your immediate investment, right? Excuse me. And so it's really, really important for you as a person to be connected to an everlasting source. A source that is not going to change on loving you when you make mistakes. Because when you have a connection with God, you know that just because you have fumbled does not mean God sees you differently.
Sure.
But the world will often see you differently when you make mistakes.
They do.
So you need that as you grow older. So that's one. Secondly would be community. You need to immerse yourself in communities that are there to grow you, that are there to reprimand you, when you are wrong.
When you are wrong.
Communities that are invested in growth that is holistic also, not growth that is just one-dimensional, which is at times we overemphasize career, right? Growth is more than career. Growth is what are the things that you love, that you want to be invested in, so that life is sweeter for you, right? Because right, life must be sweeter for you.
Yes.
So those things are really important. I think so. Community is really, really important. You have to cultivate friendships and relationships that hold you accountable, but also are healthy, so they feed you. And if you come from a family that is somewhat dysfunctional, it doesn't mean that you can't create family outside of where you come from.
Sure.
And some of us have had to learn to create family outside of the normal confines of family, right? So friendships are the best thing that you'll ever get, because I have a friend, for example, who's going through a lot, and yesterday she called me because another friend was speaking to me, and I said to her, I'm not okay. And that friend called her to say, have you talked to Musima, because Musima said she's not okay. And she called me amidst everything that she's going through. And I'm literally like, I want to catch up because she was traveling and all of that. And she's like, this call is not about my catch up. I want to know how you are. You want those kind of friendships. People who can step outside of themselves for you because you can step outside of yourself for them. So that's the advice that I would give.
And also she asked about like also with like health and what. So invest in what you eat.
Yes. So health, yo guys, I cannot emphasize this enough. Take care of the body that God has given you. Take care of it in every way and shape that is possible. If you cannot run, walk. If you can't walk fast, walk slow.
She's preaching to me as well.
Walk slow. Exercise. Exercise is so good for your body, but it's so good for your mental health as well.
Sure.
If you want to be a person who has the capacity to deal with the challenges, because every day, even the Bible says, if each day has its own worries. To deal with the worries of today, I worked out for an hour.
Every day, so
every
you
day,
do the work.
so that I'm able to have the capacity for the day. And anytime I don't invest in exercise, I can tell that I'm not okay.
Sure.
Because exercise has become a lifestyle to me now. And it's not to say it's always been like that, right? I had to learn it, and then it became a habit, and then after it became a habit, it's a lifestyle now. So exercise is so important. Eating healthy is so important. I think we live in a life where everything is processed. I had Ikonyano you're coming here before I came here, but I was saying to Aunty T, that was a treat because it's not something that we have every day in our home, because my husband particularly has decided on going cold turkey, being healthy, eating properly. Now I'm still getting there. But the benefits of eating whole foods is that even your mind begins to work differently.
It does.
And you probably noticed it when
Because,
you were
yes, that's why I said
veggies and fruits.
And then after breaking it, I thought I was gonna go back, but I realized no, I can't eat. I'm loving it. I love how light I am, my body, like everything. So now I'm just eating, like I'm just continuing.
Yeah, and so eating well, exercise, meditate, journal, pray, do all of those things, and most importantly, sleep. We underestimate the value of sleep. Guys, sleep is the one thing that will help you recover from so many things. So, sleep.
Makulalweni, guys.
Makulalweni.
Makulalweni.
Lalani.
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 And then this one, it says, how can you break from a cycle of... How can you break from the cycle of depression and avoiding falling back into the dark place?
So I can only answer that from my personal experience and not necessarily in my coach capacity, because when I coach, I don't deal with depression.
Yes.
And if you have been depressed, because here's the other thing, guys, that I have a problem with. Please do not self-diagnose.
Sure.
Do not self-diagnose and say you are depressed when you have not been diagnosed with depression. That is such a dangerous thing, because as a person who is surviving depression from teenage years, I can tell you that this thing you're about, depressed. Oh, you have no idea how heavy depression is. Guys, go get diagnosed, okay? If you feel that you can see symptoms, Don't just say you're depressed. Go to a doctor, go to a therapist so that you get the diagnosis. And the reason why I'm saying let's not self-diagnose is also because diagnosis comes with help. Either you're put on treatment or you're put on a therapeutic regimen where you go and see a therapist maybe once or twice a week or whatever, right? You're not going to get the kind of support you need by just saying you're depressed namhlanje, right? So that's very important. But to manage, if you have been diagnosed with depression and you have been on treatment, I'm certain that your medical professional, your psychologist or whatever has also told you that there are things that help you support, right? Your mental health. And those things are the things that I've just mentioned. Exercise is one of them. Exercise is one of them because what often happens, particularly when we stress, there's a hormone called cortisol. And if your cortisol is high, that's showing that you are perpetually under stress, right? And when you're perpetually under stress, the way your brain functions, it functions as if you are in a hostile environment. You know the thing where and then it's pounding. Your brain operates as if that's your perpetual. That's how you are functioning. So to move from that survival mind, you need treatment, which is why I'm saying go and be diagnosed, also for management. But then the things that you can do, which are you can exercise, right? Because exercise helps you release endorphins, and the endorphins help you then manage the cortisol level as well. So exercise, journaling is like sitting with a therapist, but a therapist, and you're listening to your thoughts. Another thing is that we are so scared of confronting ourselves, Aunty T.
How is that?
We are scared of thinking about what we are thinking and speaking about what we are thinking.
Sure.
And when you are scared of speaking about what you are thinking or thinking about what you are thinking, it also means you suppress a lot. So journaling helps you put those thoughts into paper. Then you're able to make sense of what exactly is going on internally, right? You can write, if you haven't journaled before, you can start journaling as if you're writing to a younger version of yourself, or you're writing to a friend, right? And then as you keep on journaling, you will see that your mind will now start to support you and give you solutions to some of the problems. But it all starts with putting pen to paper. Yeah. So exercise, drinking healthy, you're drinking a lot of water, eating healthy, journaling is really important. Meditation is also important because you bring your mind to a calm. I know you're a meditator and what affirmations.
Affirmations.
Yes. So to bring your mind to a calm, those things really do help. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And then the next one, it says career realistic. Most of us are not in the most exciting jobs. How does one stay motivated or continue to stay motivated? Yeah, that's an interesting one. And most people actually they are in jobs. I know even in my previous jobs, my colleagues, most of them, they were just actually most people I feel like they are working because they have to because they need salary, you know, like to pay the bills and what, because that's just the reality, because we have bills. Yes, I get the thing, Kuti, we always say, Kuti, no, do what you love and what, but it's not that easy for everyone to do that what you love and stuff like that. As you mentioned in that video, Kuti, someone will say we are talking from privilege.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
Yeah, so
I think this is two ways. One is that, again, as Black people, we have been socialized to think that jobs, having a job, being in a job is equal to success.
Sure. Is it only Black thing?
I think predominantly it's Black, even Indian.
Okay.
These traditional cultures, it's predominant. White people, if you've noticed, abantu abamhlophe uqala ibhizinisi apha ekhaya, then wonke umuntu usebenza ebhizinisini, and then that's your life, right? Whether or not you would have ordinarily chosen to be a person that goes into your family business is a different conversation. But I think what white people have mastered in doing that is to teach people that success is outside of the confines of a prescriptive job. And doing that then opens your mind to different horizons, which is once ingqondo yakho begins to think in an entrepreneurial space, it begins to find solutions to different things.
And when we have our 9 to 5, we don't have
You don't have that.
Now that you know the way you're putting it, it makes me also, because like now, remember when I say put it, I see myself going back to 9 to 5. I don't have anything, to be honest. I can see that like there is a light in what I'm doing, but because I'm scared, I'm so used to that thing. The way you said,
yes, we're programmed.
We are programmed.
And so
it's dangerous.
It's very dangerous. And it's not to say, guys, that jobs are not important. Trust me, I know that jobs are important. But I think you have to, this is why the value of coaching comes in. Because you have to learn to define what success is for you. And when you define what success is for you, you then lean into the things that connect to what success is for you.
Sure.
You're not derailed simply because because this person is asking, how do you stay motivated?
How do you stay motivated?
And the truth is, if you're looking for motivation, chances are motivation comes 20% of the time, even for the things that you love.
You know, for me, just to interrupt that one, I would say actually, she needs to motivate herself. You are the
motivation.
One.
You're
not gonna get it. You need to make you are your motivator. You are your cheerleader. You are your everything. Other people, when they do it, it must just be a bonus, a cherry on top. You should learn to motivate yourself to be like, okay, I've got this. Just like you stand up in front of a mirror, say, I look good. Say the same, like, I don't know, just say speak positive things.
Yeah, and I think when Aunty T is that the reason why this person is probably asking the question of staying motivated is because one of my iffy things was that people would always describe me as a motivational speaker, and I'm like, I am not that. Because what motivation is to keep you doing now. It's not sustainable. Umzekelo, if exercise is my lifestyle, there are days where I wake up and I'm like,
I don't feel like it.
When I started this week, I didn't want to start any exercise. I was like, I just don't want to. But did I not exercise?
No.
I did. Because it's not necessarily about the exercise itself, it's what the exercise does for me. So what's the benefit of you being in this job?
Sure.
You get to sustain a lifestyle, right? You get to support your family, you get to support yourself, you get to fulfill some of your dreams. And I think that also in a world where, yes, we know that some organizations are quite toxic, that, you know, there are leaders that are like demanding and also have toxic traits, you cannot brush that everywhere. In that, because there was a trend, particularly also on YouTube, where everyone is complaining about their jobs. Oh, yeah, my job.
It's toxic.
Yeah, my job. And I would listen to those things and think to myself, one, it's not that your emotions are not valid in what you're doing. But I think the minute that you go into a complaining zone, you also miss to see the blessings of the thing that you're in, right? And then who is in desperate need of that job, who's listening to you, and the heart is bleeding because complaining about their job or whatever, right? And it's not to say that we're comparing, it's just to say that at times be mindful to say, this is a job that you once prayed for.
I always say that.
It's a job that you once prayed for.
You prayed for, you fasted, you asked God, and then God gave you, and then now you have all the excuses.
Yeah. So find a way of being able to see the blessing in the job. And then when the time is right for you to move jobs and stuff, you also move toxic when you know, because you are unhappy. Yeah.
No, that one, people, you're
Okay, no problem.
This one, okay. This one, can stress cause back pains and pain behind the neckline? Can those be typical symptoms of stress? ezinye nje
Eh,
that's because
I
nathi
can't,
zima-
I can't answer that because
Ifuna
in
udokta.
medical,
Yes,
yes, because there's so many different things that could be causing that. But it's also to just say that when you are self-aware, when you are mindful of your body, right? Once I become stressed, because I'm someone who was diagnosed with depression, and I've gotten to know myself well, I can tell when I'm either sinking into depression
Okay.
or I am stressed.
Yes.
I can tell. Okanye I'm triggered by a particular thing. And I have mechanisms that then help me to be able to deal with that.
Okay.
But what tends to happen is that when we are stressed, because we are so disconnected, we even disconnected from our bodies. When you're not paying attention to whatever it is that is going on in you, your body will begin to cave. And then you begin to have symptoms like that. So it's possible, but I would say that they must go and consult a doctor or, a doctor, because they said physical pain.
And then, okay, yes. And then this one, it says how to support a grieving partner.
Sana, that's a difficult one. That is a difficult one because no matter how much you can try to be there for someone who's lost someone, you're not going to be able to replace the person that they've lost.
But how do you support them?
And so, and what they want really is for that person to be there. And again, when also someone is grieving, there's also like element in Dobana, nabo they're figuring out the grief.
Sure.
So they can't even say this is what I need because they don't know what they need, right? And I suppose you have to be adaptable and be flexible to whatever they need at that particular point in time.
You see, but it's costing you
It's
as well.
It does. It really does.
So it's not fair on your other side as well.
It's really not fair, guys. But and here's the other thing. You remember I mentioned
I think
to
it
you
needs
that
therapy as well.
it does need therapy. I said to you that this year has been filled with grief for me. And one of the things that I'm still like planning to have the video because it's a big update for me. But something happened in June that caused me. I heard news that was regarding my mother that literally took me back to having to grieve her from scratch. And but he doesn't know what the loss of a mother is. And with this new information, he also then didn't know how to show up for me because now I didn't know what I needed, right? And so we've had to figure it out as per, just navigating life. And to a certain extent, I even said to him, I think that what happened when I heard these news is that I automatically went into, I've got all of the resources, so I'm gonna be fine. Kanti, I'm suppressing. Sure. And then I just went into like a very deep sadness, and I wouldn't say it was depression because I know what depression feels like, but it was a deep sadness of, gosh, my mother really never had a chance. And so he's had to figure it out because I'm also figuring it out. And I think it's to say that you as the person must have grace for yourself that you may not have the answers. And you must have grace enough to also know that the person is figuring it out as they're going. But the one thing that would help both of them is for them to communicate, right? Today, this is what I need. This is how I'm feeling. And in that way, they would be able to show up for each other. But it's a difficult one. And I think also there's no cut and paste in this kind of situation because wonke is different, right? So it's really about figuring out. You're doing life together. That's doing life together.
It's doing life together.
That's doing life together. So you have to figure it out.
Hello, Aunty T. Mine will be how can one offer support to someone who's going through depression? But I think it's the same thing.
But who's refusing professional help. You can't do anything with someone when someone is refusing.
I actually had a friend that I actually had a similar situation where someone like she refused and she could afford, but she just chose me to be her therapy, which was texting for me. She will call me like in the mornings, AM and what, telling me same story over and over. I don't know. For
How
me,
did you break that cycle?
no, I had the friendship. To be honest, for me, it because I this is where maybe then I'm not a good friend, guys.
No, I'm not saying that. Like, I wouldn't be. I'm sure I'm in so
Because the thing is this, she was calling me every day. Like
every day,
every morning, everything like what at work. My boss name is Gareth, and she used to call my boss Gerrit, and then she would like, yo, just wait about Gerrit. I'm like, my boss is here, I can't be on the phone. And it's like this person is telling me about this situation. It was a ex-husband, it was a husband that was doing funny things and cheating. But I hear about this story about this husband, this cheating all the time, every day. And bear in mind that I was also in a marriage. So I chose to walk away because I couldn't handle such things. But you cannot tell someone to walk away from their marriage.
Yes.
But at the same time, when I felt like it was too much for me to handle, I said, you know what, please go and see someone and what. But she kept refusing. And for me now, each and every time, like I'm seeing a phone because now I know I'm gonna hear about this man, that and that. Yes, and then like now when we're done with the conversation, I'm also already feeling drained. So it's like now I am part of this marriage. Now namdi chatile, namdi system, like then guys, please, you know what?
Get
this
professional
thing of
help.
this thing of like you taking
help.
your problems,
Yes.
so many problems, and then you're giving to other people.
Get
It's
professional
too
help.
much.
And I think, Aunty T, you're bringing such a powerful point, which is that we must know the limits, Zabantu. When a person is saying, I can't take it, believe them, they can't take it. Don't want to impose because you feel in the banner that's the right thing for you when it's not the right thing for the other person, right? And I'm glad that you decided that I can't do this and you broke that cycle. But I think two things, guys. One is that when a person is in that kind of situation and you suggest professional help and they refuse professional help, if they are posing harm to themselves, take the necessary steps and report. Because you also don't want the guilt. Something happens to someone and you wish you had done something. So if you can see that there are tendencies that could be dangerous here, don't just keep it to yourself. Report it. Whether you report it to the police, you report it to another psychologist, or like these there's these toll-free numbers when you can see that cooking make sure that you report it, because it is so dangerous. And I think that's another thing, is that in a time like this where suicide is just on its high, sometimes you can tell that umuntu has tendencies, right? So if you have a therapist, report it to your therapist and ask, can you connect me with anyone who can be able to assist this person, so that you know that due diligence.
Can I ask a question? But isn't that person now going to be upset with you that you involve other people without their consent?
They will be, Aunty T, but I think, for example, as a professional, one of the things that's required for me as a coach is that when I can see that there are psychological challenges here, right, and this person is posing harm to themselves, I have to report it.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
So I have to report it to the So as a coach, you'll have supervision, right? So you report it, you bring it to supervision, and then at supervision they will guide you on where do you report it, because that's really, really important. And obviously when you're even when you're asking for the help, it's just to say, call this line and ask, what is it that I need to do to support this person, because it's burdensome. But it's not necessarily you reporting Ubani has got this thing, but those people will be able to advise on what the steps can be that you can take in order for you to separate yourself from the situation.
And the thing is that when it comes to stuff that has to do with relationship, it's such a very difficult thing to give advice, because sometimes you're gonna say and then the person's gonna keep going back to this person, and then like now you're part of this, now you guys, Jolani, please just jola and leave us alone. This one is saying, how do you make debt work for you? Having good debt that builds your credit profile.
How do you make debt good for you?
The good debt is like your credit card, your assets, your house, your car. Bad debt is your true words.
Guys, and I'm sure that this person is a black person. I think imali, we only started learning about it in adulthood. And what I have come to learn, not only in engaging with myself and my experience, but also in engaging with many clients, is that how we relate to money is how we relate to ourselves.
Sure.
And because money is a source of power, you will end up using money wherever it is, whether it's in your credit card or in your bank account or wherever, to try and fill the gaps that are inside you. Right? So it's important for you to check your relationship with money. Now I had a thing of over consuming, like buying all the time, and I recognized that I was filling a void, right? So it's important for you to check that. But then when you want to manage your finances well, make sure you have a financial advisor, because a financial advisor is going to be the best person to tell you this is healthy debt, this is not healthy debt. They also align you to the goals that you have, you want to have. They will also help you in being able to say, this is where you invest, and this is where you can save, etc., and the different kinds of savings, right? From tax savings to property savings, property investments and stuff. So managing whether debt is good or bad is also subjective, because it comes from where you come from. Debt of any kind is unhealthy for me, for where I come from my experience. But for someone else, debt could be something that they can work around. You get what I mean? So I think it's subjective. You have to choose for yourself what it is that is important to you, and also align your financial goals to that. So if your financial goals say keep your credit card, and your financial advisor says this is the way to go, then do that, you know. But I can't advise on that. I can only advise on the sense that how you manage your money reflects a lot on how you manage yourself and how you lead yourself. So if you can pay attention to how you lead yourself, it's going to give you a signal on where you are with money.
Okay, bestie. Yeah, you know, guys, I'm sorry now, I'm saying something out of question here, like I'm saying something out of topic. I'm just thinking, we are at Sima's channel, but we are busy, like answering my besties.
It's fine. But I'm sure Aunty T, look, your besties are gonna come here.
Yeah,
also to come
I'm like, really? And then this one, we only left with two. Ooh, perfect. After interviewing for, this one says, after interviewing for a job, should we follow up for feedback, or does that give impression that we are impatient and desperate? I can also answer this one. I think you should follow up.
Okay.
No, maybe I'm wrong there, but I think that follow-up email, just like thank you for interviewing me, stuff like just the follow-up email, it also just shows the people that you are really interested, and then what.
And it shows good character as well. In terms of following up in the interview process, so when I help people with career coaching, one of the things we will speak about is the questions that you ask in the interview. Okay. Because interview, they ask you, do you have any questions?
And you must say
yes. The worst mistake that you can make is say no.
Please say yes.
One of the questions that you can ask when they are asking you, do you have any questions, is when can I expect feedback from you?
Okay, so you should ask them that.
Because then it gives you a timeline on, by this time you will know that you'll get an email that says you're successful or not, right? So that after that time has passed, then you can follow up and ask, is there anything else that you need from me, etc. Right? So that's a really important question, because then it's not saying, you're not just coming up and following up in the interview. So that's one of the things. But probably to hop on this question to help other people is to say, when you are in an interview and you're given the opportunity to ask questions, ask about the culture of the organization. make sure that you've done your research in terms of the values of the company, what the company stands for, not just its operations, but what they do, but what is it that they stand for, and make an analysis. Am I aligned to the organization? Because you can serve an organization better when you feel aligned to it, when you feel close to it. Just like the person was asking, how do you remain motivated? Is that most times in those instances, it's because the values that you have and the values of the organization are clashing, right? So you have to make that assessment in terms of your values. Are they in alignment with this organization that you're interviewing for, right? So ask questions about the culture. Ask about how teams function. Ask about those things, because those things are important. But
are they honest about the culture? Is anyone going to say the culture here is toxic? People are resigning. People want to, like, are they honest?
They're not necessarily going to talk about toxicity, right? But they're going to talk about, remember we spoke about values. The key thing that you're looking for there is the values, is alignment, right? And Aunty T, wherever there are people, there's a potential of toxicity. Let's be honest.
Let's just be honest.
And also, again, this toxicity thing is to say, there is potential for you to be hurt in any relationship. When you're going into a job, you're going into a relationship. And you're going to a relationship with many people, with an organization that has got many people. So now you must also manage yourself, because you're not there to now be babied.
Yes.
You know? I was actually listening to a podcast, and this guy, I've forgotten, I think his name is Dr. Sandile, could be wrong, but he was speaking about the fact that we live in such an emotionally volatile society now that leaders themselves are scared of actually being militant about particular things, because once a leader says, you've done this wrong, also too toxic, also too bully, but they are holding you accountable to what you're hired
and that
for.
is so true. That is so true. I was actually, now this is something also like kind of like similar to what you're saying, but it's something totally different. It was on Instagram. I don't know if you know Ndoisile. He's one of the big, I think he's big on TikTok, but he's also big on Instagram. He likes to do these funny joke things. So there he was making a joke about this girl, and it's a girl and her mother, and then now her mother is scared of doing anything for her, because now everything is like she says toxic. And then the girl is he pretends to be a mother as well, and the girl, he's like, can I watch a TV, or which program should we watch, because I know you're gonna start to say everything, like, should I pour you a drink, like, it's everything. So what I'm trying to say is that it goes to where you say that people now, everything, like, people are scared to say, parents are scared to reprimand their kids
children,
because now they feel like if they reprimand them, they're gonna say they're toxic, like. And I feel like we don't even understand sometimes the meaning of toxic. It's just using the word toxic.
Which is why I said in your video that we must also define what toxic means, right? And the other thing is that when you are being held accountable for something that you said yes to, is that really being toxic? You know? Anyway, there are people who are bullies, and we are not taking away from that. But let's also make sure that you are keeping accountable to the thing that you're hired here for, right? Because that makes it easy for you to be led by someone.
Okay, bestie. And then I do actually also have a question on this interview one.
Yes.
So, can you ask, for instance, why is the role vacant? Can you ask that question, or is not a question that you can ask?
I think maybe the obvious question, the obvious reason.
Yeah, obviously.
Someone resigned.
Yes, but like maybe you are interested. Why? Like,
maybe
is the person maybe being promoted? Did he live there?
I don't think that would be particularly wise.
Okay.
Right. You can ask maybe about the team dynamics, like how are the team dynamics? How does the team work together, right? And maybe you can also ask on what are the career development avenues that the organization has.
Okay.
Because you can also pick up from those responses whether a person would ordinarily just leave because they got a better opportunity, or it is because maybe they just decided they want to leave the job itself, right? But there are also instances where a job has been vacant for a very long time, right? And if you were to ask that kind of question, it also because they know that the role has been open for a long time. You also know that it's been open for a long time, which means that now you're fishing for indaba. So you don't want to show up as that kind of. How to be a good communicator? Guys, you are not born a good communicator.
Yes.
You learn how to be a good communicator.
Yes.
And you have to learn how to be a good communicator with different people.
Yes.
So that means you have to view yourself as an adult.
Yes.
And also view other people as an adult. Because when you view other people as an adult, adults reason together. So communication is about reasoning together, right? And reasoning together is about seeking understanding of the context that the person is coming with.
Okay.
So that's the first place, is that seek to understand. Even Proverbs says, in all you're getting, get understanding. When someone communicates something to you or says something to you and it hits you in a particular way, seek to understand what their intention was for that thing. Because at times, uteta indo, not knowing into bana, they are hurting you because it's triggering something else for you. And it's not got nothing necessarily to do with that particular relationship, right? And so, again, the way you will communicate with an adult is different to how you communicate to a child. Because with a child, you have to constantly explain why things are. But with an adult, you would hope that we are reasoning together. And so if I'm asking you, what did you mean by this? Was what you mean by that? Nditimna, oh, how I received it was this. And it actually made me feel like this, right? So all of a sudden now, we both are enlightened in that process. So learning to communicate is a skill that you cultivate as you go. And communication is different at every level. You also have to learn to meet people where they are and not try to be over or under them. Meet people where they are, right? But always come from a point of curiosity, because that saves you. When you're coming from a point of curiosity to say, what do you mean by that, right? Because then you get to really know what a person means. Instead of just assuming that it means this. Yeah.
And now I have a problem. I assume.
So assume.
But it's something that I'm working on.
Yes.
Because I used to like just to assume, but now I ask. I ask. Yes, yeah. And then the other one, it says
the 30s, low obesity. The 30s did not pan out as the way they would have hoped.
I like this too also. How does one deal with procrastination? And how, yes. Morongwa.
Yonke into, guys, is a fruit of something. Your inability to focus or your challenge with procrastination is a fruit of something. Most times procrastination comes because you're fearful of something.
It does come from fearful. It does.
Right.
Mine, actually, most of the time when I'm like, I keep postponing, like I'm gonna do something because I'm scared to do it.
Yes. And you have to interrogate why you're scared of doing it. Because also getting to know that you are fearful of it is not enough. You must know why you're fearful.
Okay.
Because why you're fearful is going to inform you on, oh, so these are maybe my insecurities. These are my challenges. So now you act proactively towards those things that you are fearful of. So procrastination is a result of fear. And so you have to ask yourself, what is it that you fear? I often say to people, fear is your friend.
Sure.
Because fear is telling you something. Fear is giving you information. But it can only be your friend if you're going to listen to the information that it's giving you. And the information that it's giving you is that something about this situation is intimidating you. And you must interrogate why it's intimidating you. Because it's going to keep on reoccurring until you face it, right? And then once you've faced it, you confront the fear by doing. Because you gain confidence by doing, right? So if your fear is Masiti, because you're a content creator, your fear is opening a channel. You are going to stay on that fear until forever. But you have to recognize what is your fear. If you get to a point where you're like, I'm scared that people may judge me. Okay, so what if they do judge you? How can you overcome the fear? Open the channel. And then the next step is post a video. Once you post a video, it will be crappy because now you're yika and all of that. But the more you keep on doing it, the more confidence that you begin to have. But the more you learn about the craft itself. And then all of a sudden, you are confident on something that used to be fearful. Right?
So true.
So that's the thing is that, and how do you combat procrastination? Manage your time, pay attention to the things that are eating your time, pay attention to the things that you often do when you are procrastinating. So if you're supposed to do an assignment and you decide Nebugeli TV, it means that TV is consuming your time. And then pay attention to how much TV you actually watch in a day, because that's going to tell you for 4 hours in a day you're not productive. Ubukeli vlogs,
Like,
and
vlogs is there too.
Vlogs, so you're not productive. And that information is information that you use to say, okay, it's not that you can't watch vlogs, but you can't watch 4 vlogs at one go. You must say, maybe Uti does a vlog. That's how I do, because I love vlogs. So I'll be like, I'll work hard, vlog. And then I know that I'm working towards
That's so
vlog.
disciplined.
Yeah.
This one, I want you to read it. This is our last one. Guys, if we didn't read your question, it's that we are really running out of time. It took us 2 hours to record this question. So now we're just going to read this long one now. And then that's it. But if we didn't, please forgive us. There was one also here, while she's still checking here, was asking Ukuti. I laugh at that one because I feel like this bestie, she's naughty. She's saying something like, how do you overcome a crush to someone that you know that you'll never have? I'm like, how do you even know that you'll never have? I'm like, bestie, you are naughty. How do you even know that you cannot have? Like,
but you know, Aunty T, actually, maybe let's answer that.
Or maybe boss,
Okay, should we answer that at the end, because this one is quite deep. So let's answer this. This person is basically saying, how do you redefine your life after, you get to a particular age? This person is in their mid-30s and they feel like they've squandered their life, right? And basically what they want is it possible to redirect after making so many mistakes? And you're at an age where you feel like there's so many things that you haven't done right, but because in using the way you feel like, I didn't think that 30 was going to look like this, right? I think that one is that there's an element of us who dream in an abstract way, but obviously our dreams are at times not in touch with reality.
Sure.
And then you get to a particular age and you realize, let's say you had a dream of buying yourself a house at a particular age, or for some of us it was, I'm gonna be married at 25. I'm 25, honey, dololo. Is that most times those dreams are abstract and they're not connected to how your life is really going to unfold. So the reality of life. So there's that part where you go through that experience where you're at a particular age and isn't to have just not hlangana the way you thought they're going to hlangana. In those instances, it does feel like the death of certain dreams, right? And the death of particular versions of you. And it is okay for you to grieve those versions, to grieve those dreams that you haven't realized. But what I can say is also that you don't cancel yourself because certain dreams have not manifested. Get specialty, right? I mean, you've shared your story that you're a divorcee, but you've never then stopped dating simply because you separated from your marriage, and now correct? So that's the thing, is that the things that you don't particularly have control of, and you have to accept them. And when they do happen, you must grieve, because the grief process is the thing that cleanses your heart so that you are ready to start over, right? So that's one. The second thing is, and in the grieving process, you come to acceptance of the things that you wanted to do that you couldn't do, right? And you also come into ownership of the decisions that you've made that are terrible, that have maybe led you to this place, and you acknowledge them. But it's very important that, there's a friend of mine, Osanga, who always says, you don't camp at the valley. And she takes that from the scripture that says, even in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear nothing. Is that the valley may seem like it's a dark place, but the valley is still a place of flow.
Sure.
So you must be able to identify where you can do better, considering the mistakes that you've done, or considering the darkness that you're in. You don't just throw in the towel on everything because this one thing has failed, right? I mean, I'm turning 34 this year, and I'll unpack this in a coming video. And my mother died at 34. And 34 has brought so many triggers for me, and so many dreams that I wish I had attained at 34. And I recognize that some of those dreams were my dreams, but some of those dreams I was dreaming for her.
Sure.
Right? And I wish that if she were to look at me at 34, she would say, oh my gosh, you've done well. But when I look at my life currently, I also recognize that if my mother were alive, she would look at me and say, Sima, I can't believe this is what you made out of life, right? And so you have to learn to live with the duality of life, which is that in the tension and the pain of the things that you wish you would have gotten, there's always also good that you have.
Sure.
And live with that tension, and learn to live with that tension, because that tension exists all the time. Is that in as much as you may be content, Nobom, you also want to achieve certain things, right, in the future. And that doesn't mean that you're not content. It simply just means you are also allowing yourself to dream and dream bigger. And so live with the tension of that, and then to redirect is to say, you have a chance to redefine your life now. Starting over from scratch. You have a chance to redirect your life right now. You have a chance to say, I'm in my mid-30s and I'm starting from scratch. What would be my greatest dream right now? And the person even asks, is education the only way that they can make it? Guys, education...
And she feels like, I'm sorry to interrupt, there's where she says like she feels like she will get a certificate or maybe a degree when she's 40, like yes, yeah.
So the timeline thing is really, really not important, guys. It's not important because our life journeys are so different. And I like making these personal examples on Aunty T because I think people, you know, when you're just giving advice, guys, I am studying this year and I'm completing my master's. 10 years ago, I did my master's, and when I was in my second year, I quit my master's.
Sure.
And I quit my master's because I was not in a place where I could carry the load of the master's. I couldn't show up as my best at the time, and I quit. And I've had many regrets about quitting and being like, but if I had done this. But what I recognize is that the reason why I'm showing up well for my master's now is because of the learnings I've had in the past 10 years. And I've also come to know why it was that I quit my master's at 24, right? So it's to say that it's not to mean in Indobana simply because you quit something or you made a mistake, you can't redefine or start over. There is always an opportunity to start over. And once you put it out there, the doors start opening.
Sure.
It's such a spiritual principle that once you speak it and you commit yourself to doing it, the doors begin to open. Lo ugezayo ubebuza into
crash. Miss Crash.
Ndifuna ukuthi kuwe crash that we live in a society where, I said this in a group coaching actually a few days ago, that integrity for each person seems to not have the same definition, right? And for me, integrity is being integral with yourself, at unity with yourself, right? You do not want to put yourself in a position where you will find yourself scattered internally.
Sure.
Nge mistake or by something, a decision that you made that you could have avoided.
Sure.
because the crush is a seed, but it can grow to something else if you allow for it to expand.
A crush is a seed.
It's a seed. Particularly, you can entity, but we are personal.
A crush, okay, let me say a crush. Let me talk about like a crush. Let's say I have a crush. Let's say I used to have a crush actually a long time ago at work. There was this guy I was crushing at guys. You're my tete at it. Hi, Tad. And I'm like, oh, tete more. But it was just a crush and nothing happened. And it was just a crush.
Aunty T, we really question alone.
Utin.
How do you manage having a crush on someone that you know you cannot have?
I mean, it doesn't even need to manage. It's just a crush. It just makes you excited.
It makes you excited, yes. But that's why in the city,
it doesn't even need to be managed. Yes.
Because the fact that as I buza as how do you manage it is because there's probably thoughts that she's entertained or he's entertained about that person. And here's the thing: is that it a crush. And then something else happens, or that person, because here's the other thing is that who are in relationships who don't mind stepping out. And then that person comes and approaches you, when a crash. And then all of a sudden you can see, but there's potential to do something here, right? And so what do you then do that you immerse yourself in that thing? It backfires on you. Now you are in pieces. Now you are worse than you were.
Just leave the crush, my sister. I feel like the crush. Maybe crush like a where my ex-husband slept with my friend.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how the crush also now we are crush because now it's a crush, but you know this crush is wrong.
Exactly.
You know your friend like so if you know it's not a good crush and what. But if it's a crush in Jewe to umuntu crush like and you know it's fine with you.
Yeah.
Keep crushing.
Keep crushing. But it's
I now just that bestie stopped. Why?
Thank you, Aunty T, for having me. Thank you for coming to my channel,
yes.
But also thank you for having me in your home. I've enjoyed the conversations that we've had.
Thank you so much, guys. Unfortunately, we couldn't read all the questions.
All the questions
we had like few, maybe 2 or 3, and I'm sorry, no offense to those we didn't. We are just running out of time, and and then. No coach Sima my firstborn, Sister Kanwabisa.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye.